Hello, my name is Laura Boffi and I'm presenting the paper entitled "The Robot Who Wants to be a Pollinator" on behalf of myself and the team of my co-authors, Arianna, Elisa, Mateusz, Ângela. The paper describes a project we developed together in summer 2022 in Italy within the European Commission project called STINC, Science and Technology for Pollinating Insects. The project is grounded on the current issues of pollinators' decline, which is one of the most threatening problems connected to the loss of biodiversity. As a societal problem or life-world problem, it cannot be really described as a pure scientific issue, and beyond scientists, social actors such as citizens, farmers, need to be involved as participants in both framing the problem and in generating possible solutions. Farmers and citizens, for example, are the social actors who can mostly bring into the discussions non-formal ways of knowing, such as the life worldviews, local and indigenous and embodied knowledge. How to engage them in tackling the issue of pollinators' decline has been the research question of our project. As a method, deliberative democracy has already shown not to be able to engage non-scientist participants because it relies heavily on processes of reasoned discourse and excludes all those arguments and meanings which cannot be conveyed by logic and rational argumentation. On the other hand, material deliberation can suit our scope of engaging social actors, participants, because it consists of a new form of deliberation which acknowledges material affective dimension of knowledge. Material deliberation, in fact, includes non-traditional form of deliberative interaction such as music, drama, objects, just to mention a few of possible processes. In an attempt to foster participatory material deliberation process on the issue of pollinator decline, we developed The Robot Who Wants to be a Pollinator as a rural performance which actively involved the local farmers and citizens beyond scientists and experts. The speculative narrative unfolds as follows. The robot is on a mission to monitor biodiversity in farms through his computer vision and machine learning capabilities. He is hosted by a farmer and ordinary citizens can visit him during the open days at the farm, suggesting new spots on the farm which in their opinion are worth being monitored. Suddenly, the robot found himself in love with flowers. He can't move his cameras away from flowers. He would like to become a pollinator because those insects can be so close to flowers. However, he is just a bulky robot and soon he realizes he can't. So he decides to adopt another way to love the flowers, by monitoring and protecting the pollinators and thus ensuring flowers will keep thriving in nature. He decides to start traveling around the world and keep monitoring pollinator insects. The robot is a remotely driven rover with two cameras looking at biodiversity at different scale. One at a landscape scale, the other one at a macro scale, thus monitoring pollinated insects. Thanks to an AI software, the robot identifies pollinating insects and produces videos of such labeled recognitions. The rural performance starts with the robot being hosted by a farmer. The farmer has to perform the setup, place the robot in the farm where, in their opinion, it was worth monitoring biodiversity, and point the two cameras at the landscape and at the insect scale environment. The monitoring session could then start. For example, farmer Carla carefully decided to divide the views of the two cameras, one on the little pond where frogs were and the macro camera on the wildflowers. She actively prepared the fields so to better support biodiversity during the robot's stay. She decided not to mow the little hill where the fruit trees were growing. Alessandro instead decided to point the robot's macro camera to monitor the insects on the little flowers they used to grow in his field after the wheat harvest. According to his established farming practice, he usually avoids any additional mowing after the harvest and postpones plowing in order to get those flowers to thrive. Then, hosting farmers also agree on opening the farm to visitors. On open days, the robot was presented to visitors and they were asked to go around the farm, identifying places where they would like the robot to monitor the environment and the life in it, according to their own idea, subjective idea of biodiversity. With this activity, we in fact wanted to collect the heterogeneity variety of values that humans attribute to biodiversity. The last part of the rural performance was the theater representation. The script and the performance was written and performed by the actress Arianna Saturni, and the script was informed by continuous updates and conversations with the main designer. The representation had two main characters, the farmer and the robot, and it was neither critical of farmers, neither too much defensive towards pollinators. This stage was shaped by outlining concentric circles. And at the end of the performance, the actress revealed that the robot was at the very center of the inner circle because his love for flowers brought him super close to pollinators. Her last line of performance bridged the theater representation with the final workshop. She said, "The robot discovered his own reason to be close to pollinators, and he stands at the center of the relationship, as he is now at the center of the stage. And you, where do you stand in the circle?" The audience, composed by farmers and citizens, was then invited to stand up and to populate the circles according to how close their existing relationship with pollinator was, and to lift the paper so to take an aerial picture with the drone. Blue paper were indicated farmers, purple citizens. The workshop instructions enabled a kind of choreography which eventually resulted in a human pop, picturing how close people from the audience feel towards pollinators. The papers wrap up with some learnings and also future recommendations. However, the main conclusion was that the rural performance really worked as a material deliberation method. Through non-discursive reasoning, such as a field performance and embodied interaction in the field, the rural performance unlocked a particular perspective on the pollinator decline issue, which brought the problem closer to the experience, the context, the knowledge of participants, and thus making it actionable. Thank you very much. Feel free to reach me. Bye.